Hello everyone, I'm Dusty1, and there are some massive spoilers here for the entire season of Ninjago Hunted. Let's get into this. This video is overwhelmingly not a positive one. If you really enjoyed episode 94, then I recommend you click off now unless you are open to having your opinions challenged and possibly changed. Now, in order to understand where this episode felt through for me, we first have to look at exactly what was built up. An understanding of where you're going. An excuse that's been used quite recently actually is that this isn't something so linear. This is ridiculous, and Ninjago is incredibly linear of a series. It has to be. That's the charm of it. It's a story. We learn the story. We're not looking for Pulp Fiction here. In this episode, there were a lot of issues. But before I drown you in negativity, we're going to be looking at some things I actually am thankful that they included. The first thing was the actual good feeling you got from the ending. It felt like they've won, and although we know they haven't exactly won, no matter the specifics of how they won, they did complete their mission, I suppose. They did beat Garmadon, and they had the right to celebrate. It was very heartwarming. The Fold cameo was very nice. Shipping sort of little showing there, that was also interesting, and generally they did manage to wrap up in the most basic way everything that they had, sort of. This is where I kind of feel conflicted on disliking this episode. It's one of the things I've noticed a lot with the Hageman's work. Sometimes when they don't write to something I'd consider their best work, I can never really find fault with it, because there's always something they do right. They've never produced something I'd say is bad, but this episode wasn't great either, so why? Well, I have three main things: Garmadon's treatment, Lloyd and Wu, and finally, consistency. Now, Lloyd was underwhelmingly used. It's interesting, following Sons of Garmadon, a season directed about him, that it really didn't go anywhere for him. There were so many opportunities for them to develop him in a way that made sense, and although he started off down that road, there was no real concluding factor. It all wrapped around back into itself in something that they'd already done before. His final fight with Garmadon wasn't very symbolic, and not only that, but it wasn't very consistent either. His powers appeared as Garmadon lost his. I can see what they were going for, but it doesn't exactly make sense, considering how everything's been set up so far. You can't drop something like that out of nowhere and expect it to make sense. And I know that people are going to disagree with me here, but I just don't think that's right. I don't think that was the best way to resolve it. This is what I mean when I say the wrong path. Wu was tossed to the side, then relegated to Battle 2, while Lloyd fought his father with no powers at all. Garmadon was turned from immediately being quite threatening. He was in the shadow. And then halfway through the fight, he uses his Oni power, for the first time, really, his real Oni power, as he discards the elemental power like it's nothing. And as we find out later, the darkness he saw were the Oni. And that's why he was so angry towards Mistake. Interestingly though, he was devolved immediately into his Season 2 form without any restraint on the writer's part. They just smacked him right back down. Smacked right back down to idiot Garmadon status, and Lloyd outsmarts him. Oh, evil Garmadon, how quickly you fell. I've tried to explain this many times, yet people always misunderstand. There's a lot of that that's been going on with these episode reviews as well. What I'm saying here is that Garmadon was ruined multiple times. Not pulling my punch, he was written awfully in Season 2, and then he was written even worse in Hunted and Sons of Garmadon's start and ending time period with Hirumi. It was a sham. And then, finally, here we are, with the Garmadon that's actually competent and close to his pilot variation, or even the Season 1 variation in some little aspects, which I like this time round. No. Oh no, he's an idiot again. He just loses, and then he gets thrown into jail! He gets put in jail! Thanks! That's wonderful. I'm honestly glad that's the only type of Garmadon anyone remembers, and it's the only one the Hagemans think people will like. Sorry, we don't like it. It's ridiculous to think that this character is threatening. After he blows up Mr. E, after he abandons all of them, and then somehow goes back to a Season 1 version, even though it's supposed to be the evil side. Plot things. I don't get involved with that stuff. The issue here is core, and it is going to come back over and over and over again. A complete misunderstanding of their very own characters, the ones that they wrote, the ones they developed. Yet they can still manage to convolge into this horrible weird amalgamation of all the things that was wrong with him. I don't understand how people can get so defensive over this. It is honestly a bad character, and what makes this blatant abandonment even worse is that they always find some new thing to drag him down with. Oh, we're going to tear Garmadon down to bring Lloyd up. This was not a build-up to the next season. This was not us thinking, hey, Garmadon was very strong. Oh no, Lloyd beat him. That means the Oni are even stronger. If he was the only one that could defeat him, but Lloyd didn't defeat him with his power, he defeated him by losing his power, then that means they're in trouble. But no, Garmadon wasn't threatening at all. He was an idiot, like he's always been since he stepped out the underworld back in the pilots. Okay, before this goes too far, I've got to preface this. Garmadon is the only thing I've ever really disliked about the Hagman's writing. They wrote him so well in the pilots, and then they changed his approach in Season 1. I don't even have a problem with that. It's a Season 2 version, and now what we've gotten in Hunted, and the late Sons of Garmadon. There's just no redeeming Garmadon now. It was their one shot, and they decided to go back with their clearly preferred Garmadon, rather than the one the universe needed. They had their fun with the silly Garmadon in the movie. Why do you need to bring that over as well? Why can't we just have evil Garmadon back for once? When he returns, he comes back, he's evil. Not this Season 1 half good, half bad, sad story. Not the Season 2 idiot. The pilot original evil that was never continued after the pilots, because it wasn't. But that's enough of that. We have to change the subject now to something a little bit less personal to my distaste, and I suppose this lands on the ping-pong match that was the season's gold arc's developments. Every episode felt very rarely, not many of the episodes felt like a true continuation. Like when they completely dumped Jay's insane thing. One episode in, that spanned multiple seconds between that episode's ending and the next one's beginning, it's gone. Because they dumped that novelty. Things like that. Things like Skylar, for some reason, having that weird poison thing with Garmadon's power, even though she only copied it. And then this happened, and it's very confusing. And then, of course, the whole thing with the first Mystic Master, and the weird, complete abandonment of the true balance they were going for. Wait, so now the balance is the dragon? It's the good? Wait, that's not a balance. It's not what you were saying before with the Oni and the dragon. You can't change that. You just said it in the last season, and now it's completely the wrong thing. Oh, okay. And one of the worst things about this is it all took place in Ninjago City. Thanks to the movie, we've been riddled down into this small little ball of area. There's nothing out there in Ninjago beyond this. They wouldn't even leave the city. They acknowledged that there was stuff outside of it. Everything now is living in the shadow of the movie, even though it didn't even do that well. They abandoned everything that made Ninjago and replaced it with their new little comical retelling. Well, that's all I got in me. Again, I'm not angry at the Hagemans. I just think they write Garmadon in a weird way that just doesn't make any sense to me, especially when they have had so many good ideas with him. With the personal idea, even though I don't like it personally, I think it was a good idea. With the original evil, and the whole balance idea was starting to get back on track. Then he was very evil with the 3, and a whole bunch of things happened, and then we just got idiot Garmadon who lunged headfirst in with power. Again, not the one that was cunning in the shadows, truly a mastermind like we had originally. Alright, that's all I gotta say. I'm sorry if you didn't like it, but that's my true opinion on this season and this episode. Bye.